Chapter 22 Funeral for the Fallen. In the depths of the silo, Deputy Marnes lies still, buried in the upper dirt farm. Juliet, the new sheriff, stands solemnly among the crowd. She reflects on the manila folders that hold the stories of the deceased, the ghosts of their lives trapped within. It has been a week of death in the silo, a week of loss and sorrow. As the priest and his shadow chant, the gathering mourns. Juliet accepts a ripe tomato, but even its flavor fails to fully register in her numb state. She observes the crowd, noticing the childless couples calculating their chances in the upcoming lottery. It dawns on her that death and chance are entwined, that life and death must coexist. The lowering of Marne's body into the soil serves as a reminder of the cycle of life. The deceased become nourishment for the plants that sustain the silo's occupants. The crowd tosses fruit into the hole, symbolizing the release of the departed's essence back into the earth. Juliet joins them, adding her tomato to the colorful cascade. Inside her office, she is surprised to find a stranger sitting at Marne's desk. The man introduces himself as Peter Billings, the newly sworn deputy. Meanwhile, Bernard, the interim mayor, emerges from the holding cell, holding a folder in his hand. It becomes apparent to Juliet that Bernard is seizing control and manipulating the situation to his advantage. Bernard announces a forgiveness moratorium, intending to sweep away the record of past misdemeanors. Juliet is skeptical, suspicious of Bernard's motives. She grits her teeth as he discards folders containing important information about cases. She realizes Bernard is running for mayor, using his position to further his own interests while undermining her authority. With Peter sent home, Juliet finally has a chance to delve into Holston's computer search history. She uncovers blocks of gibberish code hidden within nested directories. The code appears to have consumed Holston's and his deceased wife Allison's attention for years. Unable to decipher it, Juliet senses something crucial hidden within it, something that may have led them to their untimely deaths. Overwhelmed with thoughts and investigating the past, Juliet comes across a suicide note left by Marnes. Haunted by guilt and a love lost to tragedy. Moved by his pain, she resolves to learn from her mistakes and be more attentive to her colleagues. Just as she prepares to leave her office, she receives a message from Scotty, her friend in it. It urges her to come immediately. Suspicious and cautious, Juliet gathers her belongings, briefly considering arming herself before ultimately leaving the gun behind. With Marne's empty chair as a silent reminder, she heads out, keys in hand, and embarks on a new, unexpected journey into the depths of the silo. Chapter 23 A Desperate Discovery. In the depths of the silo, Juliet races down the 34 levels to reach it. The department she knows Scotty, one of the techs, is working in. Her urgency matches her pounding heart as she darts past people and catches her breath on the landing outside it. When she enters, a young man in silver coveralls questions her presence, but she quickly asserts her authority as Sheriff Nichols and demands to see Scotty. Despite the gate denying her entry, Juliet's no-nonsense attitude wins her way in. The young man trembles with fear as Juliet proceeds, and she chuckles at the effectiveness of her argument. She navigates the halls until she finds Scotty's office and is relieved to see him. However, his behavior puzzles her, and he hands her a scroll of printout, afraid of what it contains. As Juliet inspects the printout, Scotty reveals the danger he faces and confesses to his role in obtaining the mysterious program that caused the previous 2 cleanings. He warns Juliet to leave and insists he cannot speak about the program's purpose. Intrigued and concerned, Juliet demands answers from Scotty, soothing him with a reminder of her authority as the law. Scotty reveals that the program does more than pass a simple image through from the sensors onto the wall screen. It can create entirely new views and display them. Juliet is shaken by this revelation and considers the implications. Her thoughts race back to Holston's wife, Allison, and how her curiosity may have led to her downfall. Juliet contemplates Holston's involvement and questions whether he knew about the fabricated views. Realizing she may have an advantage by having Scotty's assistance, Juliet decides to destroy the printout and take action. With the scroll tucked away, Juliet promises Scotty she will try to help him transfer back to mechanical. She exits the office, a sense of worry gnawing at her. The pieces of the puzzle are coming together, and Juliet realizes she is following a trail that Holston himself had pursued. The weight of her discoveries presses upon her as she contemplates her next move, determined to uncover the truth hidden behind the fabricated views. Chapter 24 Wires. Juliet arrived at her desk, feeling exhausted and sore from her late-night exploration of it, and the lack of sleep. The fear she had experienced upon discovering the box in the previous chapter lingered in her mind, raising questions and doubts. In the cafeteria, she could see the bodies of two lovers lying on a hill, whose fate reminded her of the dangerous path she was now pursuing. The fear in Scotty's eyes had made her realize that she needed to be more cautious. As she looked across her desk at her new deputy, Peter, she inquired about his past role in the Justice Department. Peter explained that he was a court assistant, growing up in the Mids. His father, a plumber, had passed away, and his mother worked in the nursery. Surprised by the connection, Juliet urged Peter to relay her greetings to his mother. Curiosity struck Juliet as she pondered the cost of sending paper notes versus wiring them electronically. Peter explained that wiring cost a quarter chip per character, but Juliet couldn't understand why sending information, weightless and effortless, wasn't practically free. Peter suggested that the expense might be due to servers, electricity, and maintenance, which made paper notes a cheaper alternative. However, Juliet couldn't shake the feeling that perhaps there was a more sinister reason behind the price disparity, one aimed at limiting communication and separating people. Their conversation was interrupted by yet another emergency alert on their screens. This time, the alert signified another suicide. Realizing the address was Scotty's office number, Juliet felt a crushing weight on her shoulders. Determined to investigate, she grabbed her belongings and rushed out of the office. Peter, attempting to help, mentioned a private wire he had received but struggled to convey his message. Ignoring his confusion, Juliet headed for the stairs, ready for the painful descent when Peter unexpectedly grabbed her arm with a firm grip. Stunned, she demanded an explanation. Peter reluctantly informed her that the computer declared her a suspect and that he was obliged to take her into custody. Shocked and disbelieving, Juliet found herself handcuffed by Peter, unable to comprehend the abrupt turn of events. She thought of Scotty, imagining him hanging from a noose, unable to shake the haunting image from her mind. Chapter 25, Disgraced. In the aftermath of her arrest, Juliet finds herself alone and stripped of her position as sheriff. Bernard, the head and aspiring mayor, confronts her with a list of charges, claiming her involvement in unauthorized activities and threatening a member of the silo. Juliet vehemently denies these accusations, arguing that she was summoned by one of Bernard's workers and had every right to be where she was. She suspects that Bernard orchestrated the events to fulfill his own ambitions. Bernard tries to placate Juliet, assuring her that he doesn't want her gone permanently but believes she is better suited for her old job in mechanical. He tells her that she will be allowed to gather her belongings and return to her previous position as long as she reports her progress to his deputies. Juliet, seething with anger, refrains from violence, but the desire to punch Bernard in the face lingers in her mind. As Juliet begins her journey back to mechanical, she contemplates the events of the past week. She feels responsible for the chaos that has unfolded in the silo, blaming herself for leaving her old job and accepting the role of sheriff. Scotty, the young worker who committed suicide, weighs heavily on her conscience. She questions the circumstances surrounding his death, believing there is more to the story than meets the eye. Despite her shame, Juliet is greeted warmly by her friends upon her return to mechanical. They offer their support and understanding, reminding her that she is valued and missed. Overwhelmed by their kindness, Juliet retreats to her room, where she discovers numerous wires slipped under her door. These messages, meant to comfort her during her return, serve as reminders of the friendships she has within the silo. Amidst the uplifting messages, Juliet receives a wire from Scotty, the final message he sent before his death. In the wire, Scotty explains that he lied about deleting certain files and reveals the truth behind a program meant for viewing on a massive screen. He urges Juliet to transfer him back to mechanical, warning her of the dangers lurking in it. Juliet, filled with grief and determination, copies the wire and deletes the message, not wanting to leave any trace of their conversation. Chapter 26, The Revelation. In the dimly lit hallway, the distinctive scent of vaporized solder lingers as Juliet approaches Walker's electronics workshop. Worried, she wonders if she might find him asleep on his cot. As she knocks and enters, she is met with the sight of Walker hunched over his workbench, smoke curling from his soldering iron. Piles of electronic parts surround him, testaments to his relentless work. Walker, ecstatic to see her, puts down his tools and the magnifying lens resting on his head. They exchange warm greetings and a hug, reminiscing about the old days. Juliet, however, has a more pressing matter on her mind. She reveals her purpose for visiting Walker. She needs his assistance in unraveling the mystery surrounding Scotty's death. She explains her doubt that Scotty took his own life and shares the wire he had sent her before his untimely demise. Walker reads the wire carefully and realizes that Scotty's message relates to pixel density and a small screen. As they analyze the note further, they come across a reference to a tape and a joke. Juliet recalls a faulty heat tape that had been sent to her, and the connection starts to form. Juliet divulges her belief that Scotty's death was not an isolated incident. She suspects a larger conspiracy, one that involves the manipulation of the very technology they rely on for survival. The faulty heat tape and mysterious seals indicate deliberate sabotage, feeding her suspicion that the powers that be are systematically eliminating anyone with mechanical knowledge. With the knowledge that collaborative efforts are discouraged, Juliet makes a startling revelation to Walker. She believes they are all being silenced, one by one. This theory explains the secrecy surrounding the supply chains and the lengths to which they go to maintain control. As the hiss of the air compressor fills the room, Juliet leans in closer, her voice filled with conviction. She declares that it's not just Scotty they've killed, it's everyone who poses a threat to their power. They must uncover the truth and expose the darkness that looms within the confines of their isolated underground world. Their determination burns bright as they stare into each other's eyes, knowing that the search for answers will be dangerous. But they are willing to risk it all, for the truth is a flame that cannot be extinguished. Chapter 27, Scrubbed Away. Juliet returns to work, haunted by her encounter with Walker. As she enters the dispatch, the techs applaud half-heartedly, while Knox just gives her a gruff glare from the corner. Juliet is lost in thought, unable to process the job queue before her. Images of Scotty's lifeless body and the tragic love between Johns and Marnes weigh heavily on her mind. She contemplates rallying a group of mechanics to rebel against the corrupt silo, but the idea seems comical. Determined to distract herself, Juliet heads to the pump room. Paril, a fellow worker, greets her with a wave. Together, they begin their tasks repairing the pumps. As Juliet works, her thoughts wander to the silo's origin, questioning the stories told by the priests. She recalls the skyline and the images in children's books, believing they hold clues to the world outside. This unorthodox thinking makes her realize that it controls everything within the silo, keeping them trapped. Lost in thought, Juliet contemplates her plan to expose the truth to others by using the repairs as a cover. She sees an opportunity to unite the silo's inhabitants and fix the broken system. Energized by her newfound purpose, she envisions a list of parts needed for her plan. Working tirelessly for 2 shifts, Juliet completes her tasks and heads to the mess hall. However, she encounters Knox and Deputy Hank in the hallway. Their expressions tell her that something terrible has happened. Panicked, she fears for her father's safety. But to her surprise, Hank reveals that Juliet is being arrested for grave crimes against the silo. Confusion fills her, and she looks to Knox for answers. He seems torn and unable to speak. Before she can comprehend the situation, Hank places metal bands on her wrists, informing her that she will be judged according to the pact. Despite her shackles, she finds solace in accepting her fate and tells Knox and Hank that everything will be all right. They, too, are filled with sorrow. The chapter closes with Juliet's resolve to keep her head held high as she faces the consequences of her supposed crimes. If you've climbed with me this far into the video, I'd be thrilled if you'd consider giving me a digital pat on the back with the like button. But if this journey didn't quite do it for you, consider donating a like on our next video. Subscribing is your passport to join me as we explore more exciting chapters in the vast landscape of books. Help shape the future by leaving a comment with book recommendations for chapter summaries or feedback to enhance the channel.